given the fact that the economy has grown by 7.7% in first half and inflation is under control and forex reserves are in excess of 600 billion. So how do you rate the performance of Indian economy?
When you talk about economic performance, I think we have to always take the good news and celebrate it. But we also have to ask, put that good news in context, right? If you look at why we've done so well this year, one of the reasons we're doing so well is also because the world is doing well. And that is good news for the world. But what is to worry about is when the world slows, because the slowing of the world economy is already sort of put in place by the interest rate hikes that the Fed has done, and it will continue sort of staying with high interest rates until the economy slows. So that's to be kept in mind. The other reason for this very strong growth in the first half is tremendous government spending on infrastructure. What is worrisome is private investment hasn't picked up, private consumption hasn't picked up. So one of the concerns going forward is the momentum that we see, can it sustain? Now remember that over the last 4 years, from the pre-pandemic days to today, we've grown about 4% a year. That is way below our growth potential of 6. So you said inflation is contained. One of the reasons inflation is contained is we haven't even grown at our potential. So there is some catch-up to be done. At this point, we are about 5% below our trend line, which was the pre-pandemic trend line. So hopefully we will do this catch-up. Hopefully we will grow very strongly while we're catching up. But let's remember, this is catch-up. We need to go much further, especially when you see the earlier point you made, the worrying fact that growth is not providing enough jobs.
So, Rajan, you once said that India is inching towards Hindu rate of growth, and that created headlines and also a lot of furore in the government. Do you make amends now?
No, I think I was right to worry. I think I was right to worry that our growth had slowed down. And the number I just gave you, 4%, I think the word Hindu rate is unfortunate because it created also connotations, it was a technical term which was used by economist Raj Krishna to describe the number 3.5%. 4%, which I mentioned just now over the last 4 years, not that different from 3.5%. So we do need to grow much faster. That is a given. Now, how do we create that additional growth? And how do we employ more people while we're generating that growth? That longer term vision is what we are trying to talk about in this book. So often we get sidelined by, was this quarter 6% or was the next quarter 4.5%? I mean, look, the reality is whatever growth rate we're growing at is not enough until we employ all the people coming to the labor force. Our demographic dividend has to be a dividend. The only way it becomes a dividend is if we create those jobs. Let's focus on that instead of worrying about every quarter's growth, which can be up and down.
So the government is targeting India to become a vixit Bharat or a developed country by 2047.
This was not our original, let's be frank. It comes from Hind Swaraj by Mahatma Gandhi, and who wrote it in an attempt to persuade his critics. And he said, look, I'm the editor, you're the reader. And he put the question and then he answered it himself. And we thought that was such a brilliant device. We wanted to do it for the whole book, but then our editor said, no, it'll become very tiring. So we did it in this one chapter. But the hope is that, look, let's engage with the numbers, let's engage with the facts. You say, this is the policy and this is why we do it. Well, let's look at the numbers. Was it justified? Was it not? You say a strong leader is great. Well, let's see some of the policies of strong leaders. Has it always benefited the country? Have coalition governments been bad? No, some coalition governments have been pretty good. So let's talk about the facts instead of, the worst thing we can do is doubt each other's intent. I don't doubt the intent on the other side. You want a great India. I also want a great India. Let's talk about how we do it. That's what our country is strong for. Debate, discussion, but we should let everybody's voice prevail rather than shut down some voices.
So in the book also, you also talk of the disconnect between the euphoria in the stock markets and the ground realities. What's the basis for that assertion?
So I don't want to argue that we are in a bubble or anything of that sort, and sometimes the press reports come is discrediting the stock market. No. I was saying, we were trying to say that the fact that the stock markets are doing well doesn't necessarily mean all is well. Right? Remember Three Idiots and the all is well? It's not all is well, because of the fact that there are these other things that we have to worry about. A lot of people have talked about the K-shaped recovery. That is a reality when you look at the lower middle class, that they are suffering at this point. Joblessness is rife. We've looked at consumption numbers. If you look within categories, the upper income categories are doing much better. Two-wheelers versus four-wheelers, we've talked about. So the point is that the health of the stock market doesn't necessarily reflect the health of the underlying economy. It reflects the health of a portion of the economy. If you formalize, larger firms do much better. Capital-intensive firms may do much better. That doesn't necessarily mean more jobs. So one of the things we got to keep asking is, one, stock market certainly reflects some strengths, but not universal strength. It also reflects the fact that the world, and this I keep saying, going back to, our growth is not unconnected to the fact that the world is growing. Last quarter, the US exceeded its potential growth by 3 percentage points. Its growth is 2, it did 5.2% growth. So other countries are also growing spectacularly at this point. Sometimes we tend to be the frog in the well, look at the well and say, oh, we're great. But look outside also. There's other things happening. And so as a result, let us put our stock market in context. Brazil is doing well, Mexico is doing well, we're doing well, the US is doing really well. But at the same time, there are areas in the economy which need attention, and that's what we were trying to do.
Reading the book, I get an impression that you're not a fan of PLI schemes.
How did you realize that?
So, what are your reservations, and why do you say that? Why do you?
This is back to the past, where government intervened constantly, favored this industry, disfavored that industry. Inko subsidy do, unpe tariff lagao. That is constant intervention, which didn't work out for us in the past. Why do we think it'll work out today? And when you keep asking, where is the transparency? Why did you pick this? Why did you not pick that? How much are you spending on this? What are you getting back in terms? The debate wasn't even about value added until we, I think, pushed very strongly. Tell us how much value is being added. Don't tell me how many exports you're doing. If I bring everything into India and turn the last screw, I get that subsidy, right? You cannot tie that subsidy to value added. That will be against WTO rules. So companies are saying, "Okay, you're giving me 5,000 rupees per cell phone. I'll bring everything in, put it together, and send it out." And you claim we are the biggest exporting country in the where we're exporting so much. But how much did you add in value? That is where we need transparency. So I think again and again we say in the book, for a democracy to work, you need to share the data with the people. You cannot suppress data, and you cannot simply pull numbers out of a hat and say we are this and we are that. That leads to the kind of statement, we will be a 5 trillion economy by 2025. Have you done the numbers? Any look at the numbers will tell you this is going to be virtually impossible unless a miracle happens. Because we are now maybe 3.5 trillion economy. To be a 5 trillion economy, you have to grow at 12 to 15% real growth rate over the next 2 years.
That you don't see happening.
From 6, you're going to go to 12 to 15%. Or tell me what plan you have for that. No, so we need some sensible discussion in public. And that requires data, that requires a careful sense of what is going on, where our weaknesses are, where our strengths are. No country has no weakness. And so to constantly say we have no weakness, we are doing fantastic, etc., etc. I mean, you have to take the public into your confidence and take economists into your confidence. Listen to economists who are telling you this is not working and that is not working. Don't accuse them of being serial offenders. I think that was the term that was used.